Hi again, this is the Raw Traveler here with another video. I was thinking about making a video telling everybody how I got started. How did I find out about traveling for free and cheap, and what I did back at the beginning. This is going back to about 2001, and I was in a position that was in a job, a 9 to 5 kind of job, and was doing computer work, testing software for this small company that made software that was doing billing for cellular companies, cellular telephones, and they would have a tape that was to be read by the software, and the tape was actually, it was an actual tape from one of the cell towers, and these tapes had lots and lots of data on it. Like, I think it had a whole day of cell phone calls. And you can imagine, if the tower is in a place that has a lot of people, like in New York or LA or whatever, each tower probably gets thousands and thousands and thousands of records of people sending SMS messages and talking and texting to each other. And so there's a lot of data. So I would run one of these tapes, and it would run real slow. It would take sometimes as much as 7 to 8 hours to run the tape. And at the end of the tape, I would do my test. So sometimes I would be just waiting for my tape to run, and I had nothing else to do. So I was on the internet a little bit, and just for fun, I went on the internet and I did a search for free travel, and finding how to travel for free and so on. And I came up, one of the top listings for that search was a website called freefrequentflyermiles.com. Now that guy, I think he was just starting out around that time. It was pretty much a new website. It still exists today, so I suggest anybody who's looking for free travel, free trips, and so on, check it out. It's definitely something worth looking into. It's www.freefrequentflyermiles.com. Apparently it's run by this guy who's retired school teacher, and at the moment that's all he does. He does, like, saves up miles, travels for free, and he goes on trips uh, basically several times a year. He travels sometimes in first class, and he stays at 5-star hotels around the world and Europe. And he actually goes into details on the site about some of his trips that he's had. And it was, to me, it was an eye opener, and I was surprised that people can actually not even go anywhere, stay on the ground, don't get on a plane, and then save up enough miles without doing anything on an airplane or in a hotel, and saving up enough miles to travel for free. And it was very intriguing for me, so I just absorbed everything on that site and read everything, and I decided to try quite a few of the things he recommended. And you know, it all works fine. It all works if you have the initiative and the desire to do it. All those things that he recommends, they definitely do work. Some of them require you having a good credit score, or have sometimes you have to spend a little bit of money, but you get back more than you spend, or so on. Or you have to be able to get willing to and able to get credit cards or whatever. But all of his suggestions have panned out really well for me. I don't do everything he suggests, but I do a lot of them. And way back then, I think this was around 2001, 2002, the big scores, the way I was getting most of the miles back then was with long distance companies like Sprint, AT&T, MCI. They were doing promotions where you sign up for a long distance and you get 20,000 miles if you keep their long distance service for 5 or 6 months or a year or whatever. You pay like a fee of $5 or $7, $10 a month, and then if you do make long distance calls, you set your long distance company to them. And so after about a year, you might have paid $100 or $120, but then they give you 20,000 miles or 25,000 miles, which is often enough for a free flight. So you get the long distance and you get the miles, along with the package. So those were great deals, and you switch from Sprint to AT&T, and then AT&T would have the best deal, and then you switch from AT&T to MCI. MCI would have the best deal. But then, of course, slowly over next few years, around the mid 2000s, the internet started taking over, and they started having things like Skype and voice over internet, VoIP, and all these large long distance companies started fading away, and the cost of doing long distance became so cheap that they could no longer compete with the people who are talking to each other over the internet. So now, like, you can Skype with somebody on the other side of the world for free. So why are you going to call them on the phone and just have a voice and pay like 75 cents a minute or $1 a minute or whatever? So you can just do the whole thing for free. Just both of you have to have internet and a computer with a camera, or it doesn't pay to have long distance anymore. So that promotion, I tried to milk it as much as I could back in the early 2000s, and then the next thing that came on was credit cards, and they weren't offering the big promotions anymore for long distance. So credit cards took over. All the banks started competing with each other to get good customers who want some kind of a bonus, some kind of promotion in order to take their credit card, especially those big spenders who like to, spend $15,000 a month and use their credit card, and they wanted to get a piece of that action. So they offered points and miles, whether it would be hotels or airlines, big bonuses, as it still is going on today. Sometimes they have a promotion where you get as much as 100,000 miles just to sign up for a credit card. There's sometimes a minimum spend, and sometimes there isn't. So that's happened to me a couple of times. I've actually signed up for a credit card back a few years ago, and I got over 100,000 miles just to sign up for the card. And then as soon as you do some minimum spend, then of course you're going to get more miles on it. And I think in that particular card was probably in 5 or 6 years ago, maybe 7 years ago, and I got the 100,000 miles. It was for British Airways, and after having it for a year, I believe I paid an annual fee of $75 or something. I got the 100,000 miles just for having the card or spending something on it, and then there were some promotions and stuff throughout the year. At the end of the year, I ended up getting that 100,000 plus another 25,000, so I ended up with 125,000 miles for $75. I did a little bit of spending on the card, but not a lot. So I did use those 100,000 miles, I believe, to go to Thailand from the United States 2 or 3 times, and I still have the 25,000 left in my account with British Airways, which can be used for quite a lot of different things, as British Airways is called the Avios points or the Avios miles. And it's something I could talk to in a future video, because Avios miles are very flexible. They're different than some of the other, they're way better in some ways than the US airlines, and they're worse in some other ways. But if you need this do specific things with the miles, like if you need to fly to Hawaii from the west coast of the United States, these are the very best miles to use, because it's only going to cost you I think 12,500 miles to go from one of the westernmost cities like Seattle or Portland or LA or San Diego. If you have to fly to Honolulu, for example, that's probably the cheapest and best way to do it. Also for short distance flights, if you need to go, for example, from Los Angeles to San Francisco or something like that, uses the least amount of miles. I think it's only like 7,500 miles or something to do that kind of a flight. So each airline has its own advantages and disadvantages. Then after that, there was big promotions that came along. See, during this whole time, almost every day, every other day, I would go look at that website, the Free Frequent Flyer Miles. I don't really have a lot of time. I don't put in a lot of time every day. Like some of these blog people, you'll see there's tons and tons of blogs out there about flying for free. And these guys, they must spend their whole day looking at different things on the internet about flying and free flying and what the airlines are doing, what the banks are doing, who's promoting this, who's promoting that, and that's great because they make a living off of doing this. Not only they get to fly for free, but they make money off of it because they have affiliates. They have some of these credit card and bank companies will give them a piece of the amount of money they do. Like they will have some money that if somebody clicks through a banner that's on your website and they sign up for a credit card from Chase or somebody, for example, or Citibank, and that person ends up being accepted for the card, the affiliate, the person who had the banner on his site, gets a small amount of money. I'm not sure how much. It might be $5, $10 or whatever. But if you have thousands of people, or tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people looking at your blog in a day or in a week or whatever, and you get hundreds and hundreds of people applying for credit cards through that banner, that $5 is now going to be a lot of money. It could add up to thousands of dollars in a week. So that is where a lot of these bloggers, they spend a lot of time on it, but they get the returns. That's where they spend a lot of their time. I don't really have the time to do that, so I just read one or two, and one of my favorites is the one I just mentioned, the frequentflyermiles.com. He more or less does the work for me. He goes and looks at all the other people's sites and sees what they're talking about, and he looks at the one he would most likely do himself, or which ones are more interesting to his readers, and he posts it on there. So I take a look at that site still after 13 or almost 14 years now, and I don't look at it every day, but I try to look at it every 2, 3, 4 days, a couple of times a week, and I always get something from him. There's always something. Like the other day, due to the Christmas holiday that we're in right now, one of the airlines, Virgin America, had a promotion. Well, I actually have an account with them. I've never flown on Virgin America, but I have an account with them. It's called the Elevate program, and it's one of those accounts that if you don't maintain some kind of activity every 24 months or something, then you'll lose your balance. So every once in a while they come up, like this year, with a promotion where all you have to do is click on a web page, put in your name and your Elevate number, and they give you 500 miles, just for nothing, just because you did it. So I just did that. I found out from that Frequent Flyer Miles, freefrequentflyermiles.com website that it was available. It took like at the most 2 minutes to do it, and now I'm going to receive 500 free miles. And now the most important thing is my account will stay active for at least another 2 years. I don't have to worry about doing anything in that account for 2 more years now because I clicked on his link. So that's basically what I do. I keep up with new changes. If I do have the time, I will try possibly going to some other sites. There's a few that I think are pretty good. One of the best ones and the most famous one overall is called Flyer Talk, FLYERTALK.com. It's free to join. You can join that one. Just have to give them your email address, I believe. And then there's a huge database full of information about every program out there. All the airlines are in there. All the hotel programs, all the car rental programs, all the credit card programs. It's just all there, and anything you want to know about all of the programs is there. And you can find out ways you can get free miles and free points and promotions that are coming up, promotions that have passed, people predicting that a new promotion is going to come or when it's going to end. And it's just a complete database of information, and whatever is not there, somebody else has covered somewhere on the internet. So you can just use Google and do a search. Like if you want to look for United Mileage Plus promotions, just go into Google and type United Mileage Plus promotions 2015 or something like that, and you'll find a whole list of things. From some of them will be listed by bloggers, some of them will just be something else. It could be from a bank, it could be from the airlines itself or something like that. So you can get amazing amount of miles and insight and information for flying for free just by using Google, going to Flyer Talk, going to that free frequentflyermiles.com site. And those are the main ones I use. There are a few other ones that you'll see will come up a lot when you do these searches. One of them is Mommy Points, MOMMYPOINTS.com. This is a woman, I believe, who's quite young, and she has a pretty young child. That's why she called it Mommy Points. And she and her husband and her child are basically living the good life. They're flying around the world for free. They have their parents and their in-laws, and they travel with them. They stay at 5-star hotels in New York City, rooms that are going for like over $1,200, $1,500 a night, and they're staying there for free. And she tells everything that's going on. They have like university and all kinds of get-togethers for people who blog, and she goes to all these get-togethers for people who blog on miles and free flights and free points, and she talks about a lot of these things. And so that would be my suggestion. Go to a lot of these blogs and check it out, and you'll, before you know it, you'll be flying for free too. Hope to see you soon on the next flight. Bye.